Hello again, humans. We are back with the fifth element. Oh god, I just got that. Element 5, boron. This is in the second period still. And boron. Boron is special because it's really difficult to isolate, but it's in a ton of compounds. Tons. It's used all over the place. It's really hard to separate from its components, but it's used in ceramics, it's used in glazes, it's used in fiberglass and abrasives, and it's a metalloid. It's used to improve hardness in steel, I believe. It's just it's everywhere. It's in everything, and but it's never the star of the show, right? So I read up about it and I thought about it, and this image came into my head of this stone being supported by several things, and one of them is this girl. Now, when an image that clear comes into my head, I go with it. And usually I find some excuses later for the details. But it's really important to follow intuition. We skipped a bit there. You see, there was some time for that paint to dry, and it kind of pooled in different areas, which was just fine with me because it makes it easier to get a rocky texture later. But as I was saying, when you get an image that gets into your head, you don't try to mess with it. You just stay true to it, and later on you'll find the reasons for the details. This was no exception. The one thing that does trouble me is we've got the girl facing away from us, which is of course representative of the fact that boron is never on its own. It doesn't if it were a person, it would never have its ego engaged in anything. It's all about being part of something. But that does rather interfere with the fact that in my code for these cards, there's going to be much later, much like in a year, I don't know how long, but when we get down to the large numbers, there are some elements that have only existed for seconds because their nuclei are so large, they don't exist in nature. They have to be made in a lab, and they blip out of existence almost immediately. And because no one knows what those elements do, what their chemical properties are, I've decided to make them all masked. How delightful is that? They're going to be the faceless ones, but of course with details in common with whatever else is in their column, because that's how the chemical properties kind of work. And so I don't know if it's confusing for boron's face to be hidden. She's way up there, like 5 protons. Come on, she is not one of the unknown ones, but she's so not involved without... Oh, I'm putting this wrong. She's very much a part of whatever she is. One of the fun applications of boron is silly putty. And so I put a silly putty egg down there as a Easter egg. This was really interesting because I did the letter B carved into the rock, and so, of course, I made it look like it had been carved, and so it looks like a rune. Well, and on her right side, there's those tree branches upholding the big rock, and they are obviously white aspen or birch or something, right? Well, after having done all that, because it was the image I saw in my head, I went to my Book of Runes by Ralph Bloom, and I looked up the rune that looks like the letter B. It's called Berkana. It's for growth, it's for rebirth, and it is literally a birch tree. How funny is that?